Imagine this. You're sitting in your car at a red light, thinking about a childhood friend you haven't spoken to in 15 years. The radio is playing softly in the background when suddenly, the DJ announces, "This next song goes out to Sarah from Michael." Your friend's name is Sarah. Your name is Michael. The song that plays? It's the exact song you both used to sing together during summer camp. Your heart races. Your skin tingles. Deep down, something ancient within you whispers, "This is not a coincidence." And you're absolutely right. What you've just experienced is what Carl Jung termed a synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that defies statistical probability and seems to carry a message from the very fabric of reality itself. But here's what most people don't realize. This wasn't a rare occurrence. These moments are happening around you constantly, every single day. The question isn't whether synchronicities exist. It's whether you've been trained to ignore them. In my 30 years of studying consciousness, metaphysics, and the hidden patterns that govern human experience, I've discovered something that will fundamentally change how you perceive reality. Synchronicities aren't just interesting coincidences. They're a sophisticated communication system, a direct line between your conscious mind and the intelligent universe that surrounds you. But before we dive deep into this rabbit hole, let me share something that happened to me just last week that perfectly illustrates what we're dealing with. I was working with a client, let's call her Emma, who had been struggling with a major life decision. She was torn between staying in her corporate job or pursuing her dream of becoming an art therapist. During our session, she kept mentioning how she felt stuck and wished the universe would give her a clear sign. As we talked, I noticed something peculiar. Every time she mentioned feeling stuck, a butterfly would appear outside my office window. Not just any butterfly, the same orange and black monarch, circling the glass as if trying to get our attention. "Emma," I said, "look outside." She turned, and at that exact moment, the butterfly landed on the window, its wings spread wide, perfectly framed in the glass. Emma gasped, That's the same butterfly from my dream last night." In the dream, I was following it through a garden, and it led me to a door with the words "Art Heals" written on it. Neither of us had mentioned butterflies before that moment. Neither of us had discussed our dreams. Yet here was reality itself, seemingly responding to our conversation with a symbol so perfectly aligned with her inner conflict that it took our breath away. 3 days later, Emma called me. She had decided to enroll in art therapy school. But here's the truly remarkable part. As she was walking into the admissions office, she noticed the school's logo for the first time. It was a butterfly. Now, a skeptic might say this is all confirmation bias, selective attention, or simple coincidence. But after witnessing thousands of such events over the decades, I can tell you with absolute certainty, there's an intelligence at work here that goes far beyond what mainstream science is willing to acknowledge. The Great Conditioning, how we lost our natural ability to understand why most people miss these profound communications. We need to examine how modern society has systematically trained us to ignore the very signals that could transform our lives. From the moment you took your first breath, you entered a world designed to disconnect you from your natural intuitive abilities. This wasn't an accident. It was a carefully orchestrated process that served specific interests. Think back to your earliest memories. As a child, you likely had experiences that adults dismissed as imagination. Maybe you had an imaginary friend who seemed remarkably real. Perhaps you could sense when someone was about to call, or you knew things you had no logical way of knowing. You might have noticed patterns in nature, felt the energy of places, or experienced dreams that seemed to predict future events. What happened when you shared these experiences with adults? It's just your imagination, sweetheart. Don't be silly. That's not possible. You're making that up. Stop daydreaming and focus on reality. Slowly but surely, you learn to suppress these natural abilities. The education system reinforced this conditioning by teaching you that only measurable, quantifiable, rational phenomena were real. Creativity, intuition, and pattern recognition were relegated to soft skills, while logical, linear thinking was elevated as the highest form of intelligence. But here's what they didn't tell you. This conditioning serves a purpose. A population that trusts only external authority and ignores their inner knowing is much easier to control. People who recognize synchronicities start to realize they're connected to something larger than themselves. And that realization leads to empowerment, independence, and spiritual awakening. The materialist worldview that dominates our culture isn't just a philosophical stance, it's a control mechanism. By convincing you that consciousness is merely a byproduct of brain chemistry, that free will is an illusion, and that meaning is something humans project onto a meaningless universe, the system ensures you'll never discover your true power. Recent research in neuroscience reveals exactly how this conditioning works. The human brain has approximately 11 million bits of information hitting it every second, but your conscious mind can only process about 40 bits per second. This means your brain is constantly filtering reality, deciding what deserves your attention and what gets ignored. This filtering system, known as the reticular activating system, RES, is programmable. Whatever you focus on, believe in, or consider important becomes more likely to reach your conscious awareness. If you've been conditioned to believe synchronicities are meaningless, your RAS will filter them out. But if you start to recognize their significance, they'll begin appearing everywhere. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, a biochemist and researcher, has documented thousands of cases of what he calls morphic resonance, the idea that patterns of activity can influence similar patterns across space and time. His research on telephone telepathy, knowing who's calling before you answer, the sense of being stared at, and animals finding their way home across vast distances suggests that consciousness operates in ways that transcend the physical brain. Yet mainstream science continues to ignore or dismiss this research, not because it lacks rigor, but because it threatens the fundamental assumptions upon which our current worldview is built. The hidden architecture of reality. To understand synchronicities, we must first understand that reality itself is far more mysterious and interconnected than we've been taught. Modern physics has already proven that the universe is not the solid, separate, mechanical system described by classical science. Quantum mechanics reveals that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, that information can travel instantaneously across vast distances, quantum entanglement, and that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining physical reality. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates that the mere act of observation changes the behavior of subatomic particles. But the implications go far deeper than most people realize. Physicist David Bohm proposed that the universe operates like a hologram, where every part contains information about the whole. In a hologram, if you break it into pieces, each fragment still contains the complete image, just at lower resolution. Bohm suggested that reality works similarly. Every event, every thought, every moment contains information about the entire universe. This would explain why synchronicities often feel so meaningful and precise. They're not separate coincidences randomly bumping into each other. They're expressions of an underlying unity that connects all things. Dr. Carl Jung, a neuroscientist, extended this theory to consciousness itself, proposing that the brain operates as a holographic processor, capable of accessing information from the entire holographic field of reality. This could explain phenomena like remote viewing, precognition, and the uncanny accuracy of synchronistic events. Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic fields suggests that all systems, from crystals to cells to societies, are organized by invisible fields that contain information about structure and behavior. These fields evolve over time, becoming stronger as more individuals contribute to them. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious aligns perfectly with this idea. Jung proposed that beneath our personal unconscious lies a deeper layer of psyche shared by all humanity, containing universal symbols, patterns, and archetypal energies. When synchronicities occur, we might be tapping into these morphic fields or accessing information from the collective unconscious. This would explain why synchronistic symbols often carry universal meaning, and why similar synchronicities appear in the lives of people who have never met. Let me share a story that illustrates the profound power of synchronicities when we learn to trust them. Several years ago, I was working with a client named David, a successful businessman who had always prided himself on his rational, logical approach to life. He came to me not for spiritual guidance, but because he was experiencing anxiety and insomnia that traditional therapy hadn't been able to resolve. During our third session, David mentioned something that had been bothering him. For the past month, he kept seeing the number 444 everywhere, on clocks, receipts, license plates, addresses. He was embarrassed to bring it up, calling it probably just my brain playing tricks on me. I asked him to pay closer attention to when these numbers appeared and what he was thinking about at those moments. The next week, he returned with a detailed log. Every single time he saw 444, he had been thinking about his younger brother, Marcus, who lived across the country. "That's interesting," I said. "When was the last time you spoke to Marcus?" David looked uncomfortable. "We had a falling out about 2 years ago. Haven't talked since." I suggested that perhaps the universe was trying to tell him something about his brother. David, being a pragmatist, was skeptical but agreed to pay attention. 3 days later, David called me in a panic. He had been driving to work when 444 appeared on his car's digital clock. At that exact moment, an overwhelming urge to call his brother washed over him. He pulled over and dialed Marcus's number for the first time in 2 years. Marcus answered on the first ring, sobbing. He had been sitting in his car in the parking lot of a bridge, contemplating suicide. He had written a note, said his goodbyes in his mind, and was about to get out of the car when his phone rang. "David," Marcus said through tears, "I was just thinking about you. I was remembering that time when we were kids, and you told me that no matter what happened, we'd always be brothers. I was thinking that maybe I should call you one last time, but I didn't have the courage. Then you called." David spent the next hour on the phone with his brother, talking him through the crisis and arranging for immediate professional help. Marcus is alive today because David learned to trust a synchronicity. This story illustrates something crucial. Synchronicities aren't just interesting phenomena to observe. They're guidance systems that can literally save lives when we learn to trust and act on them. The science behind synchronistic phenomena. While mainstream science struggles to explain synchronicities, cutting-edge research in various fields is beginning to provide frameworks for understanding these experiences. Dr. Stuart Hameroff and Sir Roger Penrose have proposed that consciousness arises from quantum processes within the brain's microtubules. Their orchestrated objective reduction, orchestroir, theory suggests that consciousness can access quantum information fields that exist beyond the physical brain. If consciousness operates at a quantum level, it could potentially access non-local information, data that exists outside the constraints of space and time. This could explain how synchronicities seem to know things that haven't happened yet, or connect events across vast distances. Dr. Roger Nelson's Global Consciousness Project has been monitoring random number generators around the world for over 2 decades. These devices should produce completely random data, but the project has found that during moments of global emotional significance, like 9/11, major earthquakes, or the death of beloved public figures, the randomness decreases significantly. This suggests that collective human consciousness can influence physical systems, providing scientific evidence for the kind of field effects that could explain synchronicities. The Institute of Noetic Sciences, founded by astronaut Edgar Mitchell, has conducted rigorous research on psychic phenomena for over 4 decades. Their studies on remote viewing, telepathy, and precognition consistently show results that exceed chance probability by significant margins. Dr. Dean Radin's meta-analyses of psi research demonstrate that these phenomena are real and measurable, even if we don't yet understand the mechanisms involved. This research provides a scientific foundation for understanding how synchronicities might access information through non-ordinary means. After years of studying thousands of synchronistic events, I've identified several distinct patterns that can help you recognize when reality is trying to communicate with you. Numbers are perhaps the most common form of synchronistic communication. This isn't surprising, given that numbers represent the fundamental mathematical principles underlying all of reality. Repeating numbers. Angel numbers 111 represents new beginnings, manifestation, wake-up call. 222 signifies balance, cooperation, trust the process. 333 indicates spiritual guidance, creativity, expansion. 444 means foundation, stability, angels present. 555 represents change, transformation, freedom. 666 suggests balance, material and spiritual, healing. 777 indicates spiritual awakening, inner wisdom. 888 represents abundance, material mastery, karma. 999 signifies completion, service, spiritual mission. Personal significant numbers might include birthdays, anniversaries, or numbers that hold special meaning in your life. When these appear repeatedly, pay attention to what you're thinking or feeling at that moment. The universe often communicates through symbols that carry personal or universal meaning. These might appear as animals, where different animals carry different symbolic meanings across cultures. A hawk might represent perspective and vision, while a butterfly symbolizes transformation. Objects like finding coins, feathers, or specific items at meaningful moments can be synchronistic messages. Words and phrases involve hearing the same phrase from multiple sources, seeing specific words repeatedly, or having conversations that mirror your inner thoughts. Temporal synchronicities involve the timing of events in ways that seem too precise to be coincidental. Meeting the right person means encountering someone who is exactly what you need: information, opportunity, or support at the perfect moment. Perfect timing involves arriving somewhere just as something significant happens, or having events align in ways that create opportunities. Technological synchronicities include phone calls at meaningful moments, songs playing at perfect times, or technology malfunctioning in ways that redirect your attention. The deeper mechanics. how synchronicities actually work. Understanding the mechanics behind synchronicities requires us to embrace a more sophisticated model of consciousness and reality than the one we learned in school. Your consciousness doesn't exist solely within your brain. It's part of a larger field of awareness that extends beyond your physical body. This field can access information from what physicist David Bohm called the implicate order, the underlying realm where all possibilities exist in potential form. When you set an intention or focus on a particular question, you're essentially sending a query into this field. Synchronicities are the responses, information from the implicate order manifesting in the explicate order of physical reality. Synchronicities are not random events. They respond to your emotional state and intentions. High vibration emotions like love, gratitude, excitement, and wonder seem to attract more synchronicities, while low vibration states like fear, anger, and despair tend to block them. This isn't just metaphysical speculation. It's supported by research on heart coherence from the HeartMath Institute. When you're in a state of emotional coherence, your heart's electromagnetic field becomes more ordered and coherent, potentially making you more sensitive to subtle informational fields. Your subconscious mind processes millions of bits of information that never reach conscious awareness. It's constantly making connections, recognizing patterns, and integrating experiences in ways that your conscious mind cannot. Synchronicities often emerge from this subconscious processing. Your deeper mind recognizes meaningful connections and then orchestrates events to bring them to your conscious attention. This is why synchronicities often feel like remembering something you already knew rather than learning something completely new. Let me share several detailed case studies that illustrate different types of synchronicities and their transformative potential. Sarah was a marketing executive who felt deeply unfulfilled in her corporate job. She had always been passionate about environmental conservation, but felt trapped by financial obligations and societal expectations. One morning, while contemplating whether to quit her job, she saw a license plate that read Earth One. Later that day, she received an email about a position at an environmental nonprofit, a job she had never applied for, sent by a recruiter who had randomly found her resume online. That evening, she attended a networking event where she met someone who had made a similar career transition 5 years earlier. This person offered to mentor her through the process and even introduced her to the hiring manager at the nonprofit. Within 3 weeks, Sarah had left her corporate job and started working for the environmental organization. The synchronicities didn't stop there. They continued to guide her toward opportunities, connections, and resources that help her build a successful career in environmental advocacy. Michael had been struggling with chronic depression for over a decade. Traditional therapy and medication had provided some relief, but he still felt disconnected and purposeless. One day, while walking through a bookstore feeling particularly low, a book literally fell off the shelf and landed at his feet. The book was about plant medicine and its use in treating depression. Michael had never heard of ayahuasca or other psychedelic therapies. Intrigued, he began researching and discovered that clinical trials were being conducted at a university just 2 hours from his home. When he called to inquire, he learned that they had just had a cancellation and could schedule him for the following week. The plant medicine experience was transformative for Michael, providing insights and healing that years of conventional therapy had not achieved. But the synchronicities continued. He met others who had similar experiences, found a therapist who specialized in integration work, and eventually became an advocate for psychedelic research. Advanced techniques for working with synchronicities. Now that you understand what synchronicities are and how they work, let's explore advanced techniques for consciously collaborating with this intelligence. Keep a detailed record of every synchronicity you notice, no matter how small. Include the date and time, what you were thinking or feeling before it happened, the specific details of the synchronicity, any actions you took as a result, and follow-up events or consequences. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns in your personal synchronicity language, the specific ways the universe communicates with you. When facing a decision or seeking guidance, formulate a clear, specific question. Set the intention to receive guidance through synchronicities. Release attachment to how the answer will come. Pay attention to signs over the next 24 to 48 hours, and trust the first clear message you receive. Synchronicities multiply when acknowledged with gratitude. Each time you notice a synchronicity, stop what you're doing. Feel genuine appreciation for the guidance. Say thank you, either aloud or silently. Take a moment to fully receive the message and act on the guidance if action is indicated. Since synchronicities respond to your emotional state, cultivating coherence increases their frequency. Focus on your heart center. Breathe slowly and deeply. Generate feelings of appreciation or love. Maintain this state for 3 to 5 minutes and set an intention to be open to guidance. Even when people understand synchronicities intellectually, they often struggle to work with them effectively. Many people get caught in mental loops, trying to figure out what every synchronicity means. This analytical approach actually blocks the intuitive reception necessary for understanding synchronistic messages. The solution is to trust your first instinct. The meaning of a synchronicity is usually immediately apparent at a feeling level. If you have to think hard about what it means, you're probably overthinking it. The fear of misinterpreting synchronicities or appearing irrational to others prevents many people from acting on guidance. Remember that synchronicities are a personal guidance system. You don't need to prove anything to anyone else. Start with small, low-risk actions to build confidence in your ability to interpret the messages. Some people dismiss subtle synchronicities, waiting for more dramatic or obvious signs. This actually weakens the communication channel. Acknowledge and appreciate every synchronicity, no matter how small. The universe often starts with whispers before moving to shouts. Synchronicities require consistent awareness to maintain the communication channel. Sporadic attention leads to sporadic results. Develop a daily practice of checking in with your awareness. Set reminders on your phone to pause and notice what's happening around you throughout the day. When you fully embrace synchronicities as a guidance system, your entire life begins to shift. Instead of feeling like you're struggling against the current, you start flowing with the river of life itself. People who live in synchronicity report increased sense of purpose and meaning, greater trust in life's process, enhanced intuition and decision-making ability, more meaningful relationships and connections, accelerated personal and spiritual growth, a sense of being supported by benevolent forces, increased creativity and inspiration, and better timing in all areas of life. This isn't about becoming passive or giving up personal responsibility. Rather, it's about learning to dance with the intelligence of the universe, making decisions in partnership with forces greater than your individual ego. The deeper implications, what this means for humanity. The recognition and acceptance of synchronicities has implications that extend far beyond individual transformation. If synchronicities are real, and the evidence strongly suggests they are, then our entire understanding of consciousness, causality, and the nature of reality needs to be revised. We're living through what many researchers call a consciousness revolution, a fundamental shift in how we understand the role of awareness in shaping reality. Synchronicities are one piece of a larger puzzle that includes near-death experiences that suggest consciousness survives physical death. Remote viewing studies showing that awareness can transcend space and time. Quantum physics experiments revealing the role of observation in determining reality. And meditation research demonstrating that consciousness can influence physical systems. Synchronicities point to a universe that is far more interconnected than the mechanistic worldview suggests. If events can be meaningfully connected across space and time, then we're part of a living, intelligent system rather than isolated individuals in a random cosmos. This has profound implications for how we treat each other and our planet. If we're all connected at a fundamental level, then harming others ultimately harms ourselves, while helping others contributes to our own well-being. As more people learn to work with synchronicities and other consciousness-based phenomena, we may be witnessing the emergence of new human capacities. What we now call psychic abilities may simply be natural human potentials that have been suppressed by cultural conditioning. The ultimate goal isn't just to understand synchronicities intellectually, but to integrate this understanding into every aspect of your daily life. Begin each day by setting an intention to be open to guidance. Upon waking, before checking your phone or getting busy, take a few deep breaths. Set an intention for the day. I am open to receiving guidance through synchronicities. Ask any specific questions you have about decisions or challenges, and visualize yourself noticing and acting on synchronistic guidance throughout the day. Set a reminder to pause midday and assess what synchronicities have you noticed so far today. What patterns or themes are emerging? Is there any guidance you need to act on? And how is your energy and openness level? Before bed, review your day by journaling about any synchronicities you experienced, looking for patterns or messages in the day's events, expressing gratitude for any guidance received, and setting intentions for tomorrow based on today's insights. Once a week, review your synchronicity journal to identify recurring symbols or numbers, patterns in timing or circumstances, themes related to your life purpose or current challenges, and areas where you might need to pay more attention. It's important to address the legitimate concerns that skeptics raise about synchronicities, as a balanced understanding requires considering all perspectives. Skeptics often argue that synchronicities are simply examples of confirmation bias, our tendency to notice information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. While confirmation bias certainly exists, it doesn't explain the precision, timing, and personal relevance of synchronistic events. True synchronicities often involve information or connections that couldn't have been anticipated or sought out consciously. Another common objection is that humans are pattern-seeking creatures who tend to find meaning in random events. While humans do seek patterns, this doesn't mean all patterns are imaginary. The key is developing discernment between genuine synchronicities and random coincidences. Genuine synchronicities typically involve multiple elements aligning in ways that serve a specific purpose or provide relevant guidance. The ethical dimension, responsibility, and synchronicity. Working with synchronicities isn't just about personal benefit. It carries ethical responsibilities. When you become conscious of your connection to the larger web of existence, you also become responsible for how you use that connection. Synchronicities should guide you toward actions that benefit not just yourself, but the larger whole. If a supposed synchronicity is encouraging you to harm others or act unethically. It's likely not a genuine synchronicity, but rather a projection of ego desires. Many people find that as they develop their synchronicity awareness, they're guided toward forms of service or purpose that contribute to the greater good. This isn't coincidental. Consciousness evolution seems to naturally lead toward greater compassion and service. If you develop skill in working with synchronicities, you may feel called to share this knowledge with others. This should be done with humility and respect for others' beliefs and readiness to receive such information. As your synchronicity awareness develops, you may begin experiencing more advanced phenomena that push the boundaries of conventional understanding even further. Precognitive synchronicities involve synchronicities that seem to predict future events or prepare you for situations before they occur. For example, repeatedly seeing symbols related to travel before receiving an unexpected opportunity to relocate. Collective synchronicities occur when entire groups of people experience related synchronicities around the same time, suggesting that synchronistic fields can operate at collective levels. In our digital age, synchronicities often manifest through technology. Meaningful glitches, perfectly timed messages, or algorithmic coincidences that provide exactly the information you need. Some advanced practitioners report synchronicities that seem to involve communication with deceased loved ones, spiritual guides, or other non-physical intelligences. As consciousness research continues to evolve, we can expect to see more sophisticated studies of synchronistic phenomena. Potential areas of future research include brain imaging studies of people experiencing synchronicities, statistical analysis of synchronicity patterns across large populations, investigation of correlations between synchronicities and quantum field fluctuations, and development of technologies that can detect or measure synchronistic fields. One of the most powerful ways to develop your synchronicity awareness is to connect with others who share this understanding. Consider joining online communities focused on consciousness and synchronicity, starting a local synchronicity discussion group, sharing your experiences with trusted friends and family, and finding mentors who have developed advanced synchronicity skills. After decades of studying and experiencing synchronicities, the most important lesson I can share is this: trust the process. The universe has an intelligence that far exceeds our individual understanding, and synchronicities are invitations to align with that intelligence. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up critical thinking. Rather, it means learning to dance between logic and intuition, analysis and trust, planning and flow. It means recognizing that you are both the creator of your reality and a participant in something much larger than yourself. Conclusion: your synchronistic journey begins now. As we reach the end of this comprehensive exploration, remember that understanding synchronicities intellectually is just the beginning. The real transformation happens when you begin to live this understanding, when you start treating synchronicities as the guidance system they truly are. Every day offers countless opportunities to notice the universe speaking to you. The question is, are you listening? Are you willing to trust the signs, follow the guidance, and step into the flow of a reality that is far more magical and meaningful than you were taught to believe? The choice is yours. But know this: once you truly see synchronicities for what they are, once you begin working with them consciously, your life will never be the same. You'll discover that you're not alone in this universe. You're part of an intelligent, loving system that is constantly working to guide you toward your highest good. The synchronicities are already there, waiting for you to notice them. The universe is already speaking to you. All you have to do is listen trust, and act. Your synchronistic journey begins with the very next moment of awareness you choose to embrace. Are you ready to step into a reality where coincidences become communications, where patterns become pathways, and where the universe itself becomes your most trusted guide? The choice and the power is in your hands.